There are evenings, quiet, tender, where the world finally settles, yet the heart continues to carry more than it was ever meant to hold. Moments when the body grows still, but the mind drifts toward tomorrow, toward questions, toward worries, toward outcomes not yet shaped by God's visible hand. It is in these soft, fragile spaces, where the silence deepens, where the breath slows, where the day loosens its grip, that the gentle teaching of Jesus begins to whisper across the soul, "Do not worry about tomorrow." Take a slow, deep breath. Let the shoulders soften. Let the air glide out in a long, quiet release. Let the noise of the day drift to the edges. Take another slow breath. Let your jaw relax. Let the muscles behind your eyes loosen. Let the body rest deeper into the softness of this night. If these stories bring you peace, take a moment to like this video. Subscribe for more nightly reflections, and share where you're listening from tonight. Your words and presence help keep this space warm and growing. Now, take another slow breath. Let's begin. Night has settled across the land like a soft blanket. Starlight flickers gently between drifting clouds. The breeze moves across quiet hills with a hush of evening grace, and the world grows still beneath the moon's calm glow. A lone traveler walks along a worn path through the twilight, their pace slow, measured, carrying the weight of questions left unanswered by the day, concerns too large to resolve before sunset, worries that cling gently but persistently to the edges of the heart. Birds settle onto their branches above, tucking themselves into the safety of night, wings folding without fear, hearts resting without thought of morning's needs, creatures who do not store, who do not plan, yet they are fed, sheltered, held in the Father's care. The traveler watches them quietly, feeling something soften within, a small warmth rising, a whisper of remembrance. If the Father cares for them, how much more carefully does He hold human hearts? The traveler breathes in deeply, letting the air soothe the chest, letting the warmth settle beneath the ribs, letting the truth take root gently. God's care is not distant, not delayed, not dependent on human striving. It is near, tonight, as close as the air moving through the lungs. The path opens into a wide meadow, grass swaying under moonlit wind, each blade moving without fear of what tomorrow may bring, each flower resting in beauty with no anxious thought of its future. And the traveler feels the edges of worry begin to release, not because tomorrow has changed, but because they are remembering who holds tomorrow. Jesus' words drift into the quiet night. Worry cannot add a single moment to your life, but trust can bring rest to this one. The traveler exhales slowly, feeling the day fall away, feeling the mind untangle, feeling the first hints of rest begin to bloom inside. Tonight is enough. This breath is enough. This moment is enough, because God is already standing in tomorrow, already preparing what the traveler cannot see, already holding every outcome with careful, loving hands. The meadow glows in the stillness, and the traveler stands in its soft light, feeling safe, held, invited into rest. Night drifts deeper across the land, soft shadows stretching gently over the hills, moonlight weaving silver threads across the quiet path, and the traveler, having stepped into the stillness of evening, continues forward into a valley shaped by the quiet stirrings of the mind. This valley is peaceful, serene, wrapped in the hush of twilight, yet here, in this gentle place, tomorrow's thoughts often gather like thin mist rising from cool earth. Not storms, not burdens, just faint shapes of the future drifting slowly into awareness. The traveler pauses at the valley's edge, breathing in the cool night air, feeling how it settles softly into the chest, feeling how the heart shifts between wanting rest and wanting answers, between craving peace and clinging to the need for certainty. Moonlight spills across the open field, illuminating blades of grass that move with unhurried grace, each one swaying as though touched by a breeze carrying distant stories. Stories of tomorrows that have not yet arrived. Stories shaped by imagination rather than reality. Stories that gently pull the traveler's thoughts forward into what has not yet come. The valley feels vast, wide, comforting, but the traveler senses how easily the mind tries to run ahead here, how tomorrow's questions drift like small clouds across an otherwise clear night sky. What will happen next? What decisions must be made? What outcomes will unfold? What solutions will be needed that are not yet known? These thoughts rise softly, not as fear, not as panic, but as gentle, persistent invitations. Invitations to worry, to plan without clarity, to imagine challenges before they exist. The traveler feels this tug inside, a familiar pull toward the future, toward moments not yet lived, toward possibilities not yet shaped, and for a moment, the heart leans toward them, curious, cautious, uncertain. But as the traveler stands at the center of the valley, something else becomes clear. This place is beautiful. Calm. Bathed in moonlight and quiet wind. Worry does not belong here. It enters only as a visitor, a soft mist floating where the air was meant to remain clear. The traveler closes their eyes, letting the stillness gather around them, letting the sounds of the valley soothe the edges of wandering thoughts, letting the breath slow into a gentle, natural rhythm that quiets the pull of tomorrow. When the eyes open again, the valley looks different. Not because the land has changed, but because trust has begun to soften the traveler's gaze. The mist of tomorrow's thoughts thins, the shapes grow lighter, less pressing, less demanding, and the traveler remembers, the future is not theirs to carry tonight. A soft breeze moves across the valley floor, caressing the tall grass, carrying the faint fragrance of night-blooming flowers, the scent gentle and grounding, a reminder that the present moment holds beauty enough for the heart to rest in. The traveler walks deeper into the valley, steps slow, unhurried, each one met with the soft crunch of earth beneath, each one loosening the tension that once clung to the chest, each one drawing the traveler away from tomorrow's pull and back into the quiet company of tonight's peace. A moonlit ridge rises in the distance, and perched along its silhouette, small shapes appear, birds settling into branches, tucked into the safety of the night, unaware of tomorrow, unafraid of dawn, trusting in provision without understanding it, resting simply because rest is the natural rhythm of evening. Their stillness becomes a gentle teacher, a reminder that the mind's attempt to reach into tomorrow steals the calm meant for tonight. The traveler lets this truth settle, feeling how it smooths the surface of their thoughts, feeling how it eases the slow pulse of worry that once tried to take root, feeling how it invites the heart back into simple presence. The valley holds no timetable, no urgency, no countdown toward dawn. It simply exists, a place where the earth breathes softly beneath moonlight, a place where the traveler can breathe with it, slowly, steadily, quietly. And in that sacred breathing, Jesus' teaching arises again. Do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Let today, this moment, this breath, be enough. The mist of imagined futures dissolves. The valley grows clearer. The heart grows lighter. And the traveler feels the first real release from the weight of what has not yet come. Tonight belongs to rest. Tomorrow belongs to God. The valley belongs to peace. And the traveler belongs to the gentle care of a father who sees far beyond what the mind can grasp. The valley opens gently before the traveler, moonlight stretching across tall grass in shimmering ribbons, night wind moving with soft, rhythmic breaths, and perched along the ridges above, the birds begin to settle into their quiet places of rest. They shift only slightly, a soft rustle of feathers, a gentle hop from branch to branch, a final flutter as each one tucks itself into the safety of night's embrace. Nothing frantic, nothing forced, nothing shaped by fear of what the morning may bring. The traveler watches them, still, quiet, thoughtful, feeling the first warm stirrings of wonder rising inside. How do they rest so easily, so freely, so completely, when tomorrow remains unwritten? A small sparrow settles onto a thin branch overhead, light enough to sway the twig, confident enough not to fear its slender support, feathers puffing gently as it nestles into the precise shape that brings comfort, head tucked softly under wing, breath slowing into a steady, effortless rhythm. The traveler feels a soft ache inside, an ache not of pain, but of recognition, a longing for that kind of trust, that kind of release, that kind of rest. Jesus' teaching rises again like a quiet echo in the night. Look at the birds. They neither sow nor reap nor store away, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. The traveler lets the words drift through the mind, filling the empty spaces left by worry, softening the tightness still lingering from the day, inviting the heart to see what God has woven into creation's smallest creatures. The birds do not measure the sunrise. They do not calculate the day ahead. They do not carry the weight of tomorrow in their fragile chests. They wake when light arrives, sing when morning breaks, receive what the earth provides, rest when darkness comes. Their lives are simple, but not careless. Free, but not forgotten. Guided, but without striving. A pair of doves glide quietly to a nearby branch, their wings catching the moonlight for a brief, shimmering moment, a gentle landing, a soft coo carried across the stillness, and then they settle, side by side, safe, unworried, unburdened by the thought of what tomorrow might demand. The traveler feels the wind brush against their face, cool, calming, carrying the faint rustle of feathers settling into place, and in that breeze a truth stirs. If God cares for these delicate creatures with such constancy, such tenderness, such endless provision, how much more deeply does He care for human hearts? The traveler steps closer to a tree trunk, running fingertips gently along its rough surface, feeling the vibrations of tiny movements as more birds find their resting spots above, an entire community of creatures surrendering effortlessly tonight, not because they know what tomorrow holds, but because they know who holds them. The traveler breathes in deeply, letting the cool air anchor the moment, letting the scent of earth and leaves settle the mind, letting the image of the resting birds seep into the soul like warm oil poured onto tense thoughts. These small lives, so fragile and weightless, are watched over by a Father who never slumbers, who never overlooks, who never forgets to provide. And the traveler realizes, tomorrow's needs are not theirs to solve in the quiet of night. They are God's to hold, God's to meet, God's to guide into existence at the proper time. One of the smallest birds lifts its head for a moment, eyes reflecting the faint glow of the moon, and for a brief second, the traveler senses something holy, as if the bird itself is a living reminder, a breathing parable, a gentle teacher perched in the branches, whispering without words, "If the Father cares for me, He surely cares for you." The bird tucks its head again, breath slowing, body softening, rest claiming it fully without fear. The traveler exhales, A long, slow breath, feeling something release inside, a loosening of tomorrow's grip, a quiet readiness to surrender what the mind cannot control, a willingness to trust in a God who feeds the smallest winged creature, and therefore will not forget the heart standing beneath these branches. Tonight, the birds teach without speaking, and their lesson settles gently into the traveler's spirit. Rest is safe, because tomorrow is already held by God. The birds settle deeper into their branches, night gathering around them like a soft shelter, moonlight pooling gently along the leaves and limbs, and the traveler watches with quiet attention, feeling the tender weight of the moment press softly against the heart. Something about this scene, this effortless resting, this quiet trust, this simple acceptance of night, begins to open a deeper truth within the traveler, a truth Jesus once spoke into anxious human hearts: your Father knows what you need. The traveler breathes slowly, letting the air move through the lungs with unhurried grace, letting the shoulders drop another degree, letting the mind ease into the rhythm of the valley's quiet hum. The valley stretches ahead in soft, rolling contours, shadows deepening along its gentle slopes, the grass shimmering under the touch of moonlight, each blade bending effortlessly to the breeze, none striving, none worrying, all simply held in the steady provision of God. The traveler steps forward, feeling the soft earth beneath their feet, cool, firm, familiar, a grounding reminder that creation itself lives by God's hand, fed by sunlight, washed by rain, held steady through every season under his faithful watch. A nearby stream glimmers faintly, its slow rippling a lullaby to the night, water moving with quiet purpose, never rushing, never anxious, always present, always enough. The traveler kneels at its edge, dipping a hand into the cool current, watching droplets sparkle as they fall back into the stream, and something inside becomes deeply aware: provision is not an idea. It is a lived reality, a rhythm woven into the fabric of the world, a truth spoken not only in scripture but whispered through every corner of creation. The trees stand rooted with steady confidence, not worrying about storms, not fearing the dryness of future days. They simply draw what they need from the soil given beneath them, and rise toward the light that meets them each morning. The traveler feels this truth settle gently. If God sustains towering trees and feeds the smallest sparrow and clothes fields with flowers that bloom for a moment and fade, how much more deeply does he sustain the heart that bears his image? A warm breeze drifts across the traveler's face, carrying the scent of earth and leaves, a quiet reassurance woven into the air. God does not forget. God does not overlook. God does not delay without purpose. He provides, softly, faithfully, in his time, in his way, with his love. The traveler rises slowly, eyes drifting upward to the branches where the birds sleep without fear, each tiny form a testimony to a Father who never withholds what is needed, who does not ask his children to earn his care, who does not wait for perfect faith before he provides tenderly for their lives. A subtle warmth spreads through the traveler's chest, a quiet loosening of old habits, the habit of predicting outcomes, the habit of holding tomorrow too tightly, the habit of believing they must handle everything alone. The presence of God feels near, gentle, unforced, like a safe hand resting lightly on the traveler's back, a hand that guides, a hand that supports, a hand that has carried them through far more than they often remember. The traveler steps into the center of the valley, grass brushing softly against their legs, wind humming in gentle, soothing patterns, and feels an unexpected peace rise, an understanding that God's care is not reactive, not delayed, not uncertain. It is constant. It is active. It is already waiting in places the traveler has not yet reached. The valley seems to glow brighter, not from the moon alone, but from the calm settling within, a calm shaped by this truth. The God who provides for all creation provides for his children most tenderly of all. Tonight, the traveler is not asked to solve tomorrow, only to rest in the God who holds it. The God who knows their needs before they speak them, who sees the path before they walk it, who prepares the provision before they feel the lack. A soft breath escapes the traveler, a breath that carries release, trust, and the beginning of true rest. The traveler moves gently through the moonlit valley, each step softened by grass swaying in the night breeze, each breath loosening the quiet tension that the day had pressed into the chest. And yet, beneath the calm, the traveler begins to notice something stirring, a familiar pattern, a habit woven into years of living, a subtle ache that rises whenever tomorrow feels uncertain. The habit of trying to see ahead, trying to solve what has not yet come, trying to build answers out of situations still unformed, trying to prepare the heart for imagined outcomes that might never arrive. The traveler pauses, standing in a small clearing where moonlight settles like a soft blessing on the earth, their breath moving slowly, shoulders easing into the quiet of night. But the mind drifts toward tomorrow's questions like a river pulled toward the sea. What if tomorrow brings difficulty? What if decisions require clarity they don't yet have? What if provision feels thin? What if strength feels small? What if the unexpected rises like a shadow on the path? The traveler feels the familiar swell of anticipation, the urge to brace, to predict, to rehearse what might happen, to construct tomorrow in the mind long before God unfolds it. It is such a human reflex, the longing to feel ready, safe, in control of an unseen horizon. But as the traveler stands beneath the quiet sky, something shifts gently inside, a recognition, a soft truth rising like a calm tide over the heart. Every moment spent predicting the future robs tonight of its peace. Every imagined scenario steals breath from the present. Every attempt to control what has not yet come places a weight on the heart it was never designed to carry. The traveler lifts their eyes to the branches above, where small birds sleep effortlessly, unconcerned with morning, unafraid of the unknown, resting without planning, breathing without rehearsing what dawn may require. If they do not bear the burden of tomorrow, why does the human heart cling so tightly to it? The traveler lowers their gaze, feeling a soft ache behind the ribs, an ache shaped by years of carrying worry like armor, worn not for protection, but out of habit built in seasons of uncertainty, habit formed in moments when the world felt unpredictable, habit refined when the heart believed it had to be its own safeguard. A gentle breeze drifts along the valley floor, moving across the traveler's face with a tenderness that feels almost like understanding, as though creation itself knows the weight of this struggle and offers a soft, steadying hand. The traveler realizes, anxiety is often the attempt to live tomorrow with today's strength. But today's strength was only ever meant for today. Jesus' words echo softly through the night. Do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. The traveler feels the truth settle deeply. The heart was designed to walk in step with God one day at a time, not to leap ahead, not to brace for unseen burdens, not to borrow trouble from a future God has already stepped into. The clearing grows quiet, wind brushing through tall grass in slow, soothing waves, as if the earth itself exhales, inviting the traveler to do the same. The traveler closes their eyes, letting the breath deepen, letting the shoulders drop, letting the tension melt from the space behind the chest, letting the mind loosen its grip on what has not yet happened. And something remarkable occurs. The moment they stop reaching for tomorrow, tonight's peace rushes in, filling the spaces where fear once lingered, softening the edges of the heart, drawing the traveler back into the only place God has asked them to be, the present moment, this breath, this night, this quiet valley under God's watchful care. In this stillness, the traveler realizes how much energy is saved when the soul is no longer trying to live a day that has not yet begun. The future is not theirs to foresee. It is God's to unfold. And God does not reveal tomorrow because He wants the traveler's heart to rest tonight. A gentle warmth spreads through the traveler's chest, a warmth shaped by trust, by release, by the tender understanding that God carries tomorrow so the heart does not have to. The breeze settles. The valley quiets. The night deepens into peace. And the traveler feels lighter, not because tomorrow has changed, but because they have stopped trying to enter it too soon. The traveler moves deeper into the quiet valley, moonlight settling in long, gentle pools across the earth, the wind carrying a slow, steady hush through tall grass, and the night, in all its tender stillness, begins to wrap around the traveler like a soft blanket of calm. Something has changed. Not in the landscape, not in the sky, not in the path ahead, but inside the traveler, inside the heart that began this night weighted by tomorrow's concerns. The gripping thoughts of what may come, the pull toward distant possibilities, the instinct to gather tomorrow's burdens before tomorrow arrives, all of it has begun to loosen, unravel, fall away like dry leaves carried into the dark by gentle wind. In their place, something new begins to rise, a quiet awareness, a gentle truth, a comforting presence that whispers softly within. Today is enough. This moment is enough. This breath is enough. The traveler breathes in slowly, letting the lungs fill with cool night air, letting it glide through the chest like soft water over smooth stones, letting the tension dissolve a little deeper with every ripple of breath. The air carries the scent of earth warmed by the day, hints of dew forming, a coolness that signals the night's slow descent toward rest, and all of it feels like a reminder: grace is here. Grace is present. Grace is not waiting for sunrise to begin. The traveler continues along the path, steps quiet, unhurried, as though the body itself senses that there is no need to rush ahead, no need to anticipate, no need to measure tomorrow with today's strength. A gentle rise in the land leads to a small ridge, and as the traveler steps onto it, the valley unfolds behind them, a soft sweep of moonlit meadow, trees standing in peaceful silence, a stream glimmering with silver light, birds tucked safely into their branches, every corner held in the quiet work of God. Nothing in this valley worries about tomorrow. Nothing strains toward the next sunrise. Nothing reaches beyond the day that has been given. Everything rests in the portion of grace allotted for this night. No more, no less, just enough. The traveler stands there quietly, feeling the truth settle like warm oil over their heart. Grace always comes in today's measure. Not tomorrow's. Not yesterday's. Today's. The reason the future feels heavy is because the heart tries to carry it with strength not yet provided. The reason worry grows is because the soul reaches into tomorrow where grace has not yet arrived. The reason peace slips is because the mind drifts into hours God has not asked it to live tonight. The traveler lowers their gaze, eyes tracing the soft outline of their own shadow stretching across the ridge, and something inside them shifts again, a small, quiet acceptance, a new willingness to take life at the pace God gives it. A gentle wind sweeps through the valley, brushing past the traveler's face, carrying tiny whispers of leaves, soft strokes of cool air across warm skin, and the wind itself seems to speak, "Stay here, in this breath, in this night, in the grace that is enough for now." The traveler sits on a smooth stone nestled at the edge of the ridge, letting their hands rest loosely in their lap, letting their legs relax, letting the heart slow its rhythm to match the calm of the valley below. They close their eyes, and in the darkness behind their eyelids, the night becomes even softer, an intimate space where the truth of Jesus' words can land gently, deeply, without resistance. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will take care of itself. Each day has its own grace, its own portion, its own strength. And tonight, this moment, this quiet breath under moonlit sky, has grace enough for the traveler to rest. The traveler breathes again, a slow, full, peaceful inhale, then a long release that carries the remnants of the day outward, out of the chest, out of the mind, out into the open air where God can hold it. Today's grace is here. Soft, steady, gentle, holding the traveler like warm hands cupped around a flickering candle, shielding, protecting, nourishing the quiet flame within. Nothing more is required of the traveler tonight. Not answers, not plans, not preparation for what has not yet come. Only this, to rest in the grace God has poured into this present moment, grace that is enough for today, and will be more than enough when tomorrow becomes today. The valley hums softly, the moonlight deepens, the trees stand guard in gentle silence, and peace settles like a blanket across the traveler's weary heart. The traveler sits quietly on the smooth stone beneath the moonlit sky, breath slow, steady, calm, the valley stretching wide around them like a soft cradle of stillness, and as the night deepens, a familiar truth begins to rise gently inside, a truth Jesus once spoke with tender clarity, a truth the heart needs to hear again beneath the hush of evening. Who by worrying can add a single cubit to their life? The traveler lets the words drift through their mind, soft, weighty, a question not meant to scold, but to free from the quiet burden that the human heart has tried to carry for far too long. They close their eyes, letting the meaning settle like warm light across tired thoughts, letting the breath soften into an easy rhythm, letting the truth begin its gentle work. Worry promises control, but gives none. Worry claims it can prepare the heart, but only drains it. Worry whispers that it can protect from pain, but instead steals peace from moments meant for rest. The traveler reflects on this quietly, seeing in their own history the many times worry rose like a shadow, times when the mind raced into the future searching for answers, times when fear insisted it could solve what had not yet come, times when sleepless nights were filled with imagined outcomes the heart was never meant to carry. Yet none of those nights added strength, none added clarity, none added a breath of life, none stretched time or softened tomorrow, none added even the smallest measure of peace. The traveler exhales slowly, feeling the truth unveil itself gently. Worry cannot add to life. It can only subtract. Subtract rest, subtract peace, subtract the presence of tonight, pulling the heart away from the quiet beauty God offers here, now, in this very breath. A faint breeze brushes along the traveler's face, soft as a whisper, cool as water flowing over smooth stone, and it carries with it the subtle fragrance of earth and night, a reminder of how creation lives entirely without the weight of worry, how everything moves according to the rhythms God designed, not the anxieties people create. The traveler gazes across the valley floor, moonlight shimmering along small ridges, trees resting with their branches lowered, the stream gliding with gentle consistency, each element of the valley living fully within the boundaries of this moment, not reaching beyond, not grasping for tomorrow, not attempting to stretch life by a single inch. The traveler feels something loosen inside, a small knot behind the ribs, a burden carried so unconsciously for so long, as if the heart assumed it must keep tomorrow safe by thinking about it endlessly, as if the mind believed it could protect itself by rehearsing potential troubles, as if worry was somehow necessary for survival. But here, under the soft breath of night, that belief dissolves. The traveler lifts their gaze toward the sky, stars scattered across the darkness like tiny embers, each one glowing without effort, each one held in place by a God who orchestrates galaxies with the same care he gives to the human soul. How small life's worries seem beneath this sky, not insignificant, not dismissed, but safe, held within the vastness of a God who sees every moment, past, present, future, and cares for each one more tenderly than the human mind can comprehend. The traveler inhales deeply, breath filling the lungs, heart softening, mind easing into the realization that worry has never been a companion that added life, only one that weighed it down. They think of the countless moments spent imagining outcomes, preparing for possibilities, trying to stretch time with anxious thoughts, and now, beneath this quiet sky, the traveler realizes, life is not expanded by effort. It is expanded by trust. Trust in the God who holds tomorrow. Trust in the God who shapes the future. Trust in the God who gives breath for each moment exactly when it is needed, not earlier, not all at once, but in perfect, gentle timing. The night wind hums softly through the valley, and the traveler feels peace settle like a soft cloak around their shoulders. A peace that whispers, you cannot add to your life by worrying, but you can add rest by letting go. The traveler releases a long, slow breath, one that carries away the remnants of tomorrow's imagined weight, one that opens space for quiet, for presence, for God's gentle nearness filling the places where anxiety once lived. Tonight, nothing needs to be predicted. Nothing needs to be solved. Nothing needs to be stretched beyond the limits of this breath. Life will not grow by anxious thought, but it will grow by resting in the one who gives each day its own grace. The traveler rises slowly from the smooth stone, legs steady, breath gentle, the night wrapped around them like a soft cloak of comfort, and as they continue along the moonlit ridge, the valley begins to shift, not in shape or sound, but in the quiet language of creation whispering its next lesson. The wind, moving with soft purpose, drifts toward a nearby field, a field the traveler has not yet entered, a place where the landscape seems to glow differently beneath the moon, as though touched by a quiet radiance, a hidden beauty waiting to be seen. Step by slow step, the traveler descends the ridge, grass brushing against their legs, shadows dancing across the earth in long, gentle shapes, and as they reach the base of the hill, the field unfurls before them, wide, open, peaceful, blanketed in lilies that sway with the calm of night. They shimmer beneath the moonlight, petals soft as whispered prayers, stems bending just enough to meet the breeze, their beauty effortless, unforced, unworried. The traveler stands at the edge of the field, awestruck by the quiet glow resting over each bloom. Not a single lily appears anxious, not a single stem looks strained, not one flower struggles to maintain its beauty. They simply are, alive in the present moment, clothed in colors they did not create, sustained by a care they do not understand. Jesus' words drift gently through the traveler's mind. Consider the lilies. They do not toil or spin. Yet even Solomon in all his splendor was not clothed like one of these. The traveler steps forward, careful, reverent, letting the soles of their feet brush lightly against the soft earth between each bloom, feeling the beauty of the moment settle deep inside the chest, a beauty shaped not by effort, but by surrender. Each lily stands in its place with serene confidence, not because it earned its position, not because it fought for the right to grow, but because God placed it here, chose this soil, chose this season, chose this unfolding of delicate petals at the hour appointed. The traveler kneels beside a cluster of lilies, drawing closer to their quiet glow, watching how their petals sway ever so slightly with the night air, their colors soft and pale under the moon, their fragrance drifting gently upward like a peaceful sigh. These flowers do not worry about tomorrow's sun, they do not fear tomorrow's rain, they do not brace for the unknown, they live fully in this night, this breath, this moment God has given them. The traveler reaches out and gently touches a petal, cool, smooth, tender as soft fabric, and in that delicate contact, a truth stirs gently within. Beauty does not grow by striving. It grows by trusting the one who gives it life. The lilies flourish not because they work, not because they plan ahead, not because they secure their future, but because they rest in the place God planted them, receiving light, receiving rain, receiving nourishment from the unseen care beneath the soil. The traveler's breath deepens, a slow, inward pull of night air rich with the scent of flowers, followed by a long, easing exhale that releases the tightness held in the chest. In the presence of the lilies, something becomes clear. Worry does not add beauty to life. It steals it. Striving does not enrich the soul. It burdens it. But resting in God's care, trusting His provision, leaning into His timing, allows the heart to bloom in its own season, its own rhythm, its own quiet splendor. The wind moves again, a soft sweep through the field, causing the lilies to sway as one, a slow, collective movement of graceful surrender, as if creation itself is breathing a gentle truth over the traveler. Let yourself be held, let yourself be provided for, let yourself be cared for by the one who clothes the fields in beauty. The traveler closes their eyes, letting the breeze move through their hair, letting the fragrance of lilies settle into their lungs, letting the peaceful lesson soak deep into the soul. God's care is abundant. God's timing is perfect. God's provision is tender. And if He dresses the lilies with such effortless beauty, how much more will He clothe the human heart with everything it needs? The lilies sway softly, the moon glows gently, and peace settles deeper into the traveler's spirit, a peace shaped by beauty untouched by worry. The field of lilies stretches quietly beneath the moon, each bloom resting in gentle stillness, each petal catching the soft silver glow of night, and the traveler stands among them with a heart slowly easing into peace, a peace shaped by beauty that asks for nothing, yet receives everything it needs. The lilies do not lift a single plea toward heaven. They do not cry out for color, for shape, for nourishment, for protection, and still, they are clothed in beauty beyond anything they could imagine, clothed without effort, clothed without striving, clothed without fear of tomorrow's light or tomorrow's clouded sky. The traveler kneels once more among the blooms, fingers brushing lightly against cool petals, the night air rich with the soft fragrance rising from the field, and a tender truth stirs deep within. If God so richly clothes what cannot ask, what cannot pray, what cannot speak its need, how gently, how faithfully, will he clothe the heart that longs quietly for his care. A gentle wind sweeps through the valley, passing over the lilies with the hush of a lullaby, petals swaying in graceful, effortless arcs, nothing within them tense, nothing guarded, nothing preparing for what might not come. They simply receive. They simply exist. They simply trust the one who formed them in silence, placed them in this soil, nourished them with unseen streams, and dressed them in beauty that defies human labor. The traveler allows this truth to drift deeper, letting it seep into the spaces where worry once settled, letting it reach the places where fear tried to grow, letting it soften the quiet ache that asked whether God truly sees, truly remembers, truly provides. The field of lilies whispers the answer without words. He sees you. He remembers you. He provides for you more faithfully than you know. The traveler rises slowly, standing in the center of the field, moonlight brushing the tops of the flowers like a gentle blessing, and as they breathe in, a sense of being known begins to bloom, softly, quietly, like petals unfolding in dawn's early light. God's care is not limited to the mighty, or the strong, or the bold, or the ones who speak loudly of their need. His care reaches the fragile, the quiet, the overlooked, the ones who barely whisper their hopes in the dark, the ones who hold fear behind steady eyes, the ones who ache in silence, the ones who wonder if their needs are too small to matter. If he clothes the lilies so faithfully, will he not clothe the heart that carries unseen burdens, unasked prayers, unspoken longings? The traveler walks slowly through the field, each step a brush of fragrance, each movement soft, deliberate, like wandering through a living parable woven from petals and moonlight. They pause beside a single lily, a bloom smaller than the rest, its petals delicate, pale, its stem thin but standing, and the traveler senses a story written in its gentle posture. Even the smallest is cared for, even the fragile is clothed, even the overlooked is given beauty and shelter. The traveler's breath catches softly, warmth gathering beneath the ribs, not sadness, not fear, but a tender recognition. God's care is not earned. It is given. Freely, wholly, tenderly, to all creation, and even more to the hearts he shaped with his own hands. The wind moves again, a slow sweep across the field, the lilies bowing as though in quiet gratitude, and the traveler feels an invitation rise within, an invitation to let go of the belief that they must earn God's provision, or prove their worthiness, or attempt to control the uncertainties of tomorrow. The lilies release the night to God, the birds release their rest to God, the trees release their growth to God, and the traveler, a beloved child, is invited to release their worry to him just the same. A soft exhale escapes their lips, long, easing, grounded, as though their spirit is finally allowing God to hold what the heart once clutched too tightly. They lift their gaze toward the sky, stars shimmering like small promises scattered across the darkness, silent reminders that the one who clothes the lilies also clothes the soul, not with fabric, but with peace, with mercy, with protection, with presence, with love that does not falter in any season. Tonight, the traveler no longer wonders whether God will provide. The lilies have answered that question. Tonight, the traveler only needs to rest in the truth. The Father who clothes what cannot ask will surely care for the heart that seeks him in the quiet of this moonlit field. The traveler stands in the heart of the lily field, moonlight resting on petals that glow like tiny lanterns, the night breathing softly around them, and within their chest, something new begins to unfold, a quiet seed of trust, small, gentle, but unmistakably alive. It does not appear suddenly. It does not rise like a surge of certainty. It begins the way dawn begins, soft edges of light forming in darkness, a warmth growing where cold once lingered, a steady glow pushing back the shadows inside. The traveler takes a slow breath, inhaling the cool fragrance of lilies, exhaling the remnants of old patterns, the habit of overthinking, the reflex to brace for tomorrow, the instinct to gather tomorrow's burdens before the day arrives. With each breath, worry loosens its grip, not all at once, but in gentle unwinding strands, falling quietly like threads slipping through open fingers. A small lily brushes the traveler's leg as the wind moves through the field, its stem bending lightly, petals trembling in delicate arcs, yet it stands unharmed, unbroken, held by the soil that nourishes it and the God who sustains it. Trust feels like that, not rigid, not immovable, but flexible, soft, alive, a strength that bends without shattering, a steadiness not built on control, but on surrender. The traveler begins to walk slowly between the blooms, feet sinking gently into the cool earth, each step unhurried, rhythmic, a quiet movement through a landscape painted with a piece of God's provision. Something deep inside settles, a realization that God does not ask the heart to manufacture trust through effort, He grows it through presence. He nurtures it through care. He strengthens it through every moment where fear dissolves beneath His gentleness. As the traveler continues, a faint glow appears along the distant horizon, not sunrise, not yet, but the early shimmer of dawn preparing its first quiet reach across the sky, a reminder that even the promise of light begins small, humble, almost imperceptible, yet faithful to grow. Trust grows like this. Not in leaps. Not in dramatic revelations. But in small increments of peace, moments of release, whispers of reassurance felt deep in the chest, the kind of growth only noticed when the heart pauses long enough to feel it. The traveler breathes again, a breath deeper than the ones before, a breath that opens the ribcage, a breath that feels like space expanding inside, making room for hope, making room for belief, making room for the possibility that tomorrow is not a threat to be managed, but a day already held by God's gentle hands. They step onto a small rise within the field, lilies stretching in every direction, the horizon glowing softly, the valley quiet in reverence, and the traveler feels it, the warmth beginning to bloom beneath the sternum, a glow subtle but steady, a sign that trust has begun to take root. The traveler closes their eyes, hands resting loosely at their sides, head tilted slightly as the early wind brushes their face, and in the quiet darkness behind closed eyelids, the presence of God feels near, not in words, not in visions, but in a peace so gentle it feels like soft light pressing warm hands over the traveler's heart. It is in this peace, this soft, growing peace, that a truth finally settles. If God cares for lilies who cannot ask, and birds who cannot plan, and valleys that cannot worry, then surely, He cares for the heart standing in this field, a heart capable of fear, yes, but also capable of trust, trust that grows slowly like dawn gathering strength across a sleeping sky. The traveler opens their eyes, and the horizon glows a little brighter, a little warmer, a little more alive, trust unfurling in the soul the way light unfurls across the earth at the first breath of morning. Tonight, there is no rush to believe perfectly. No urgency to silence every anxious thought. No demand to reach certainty. Only this, to let trust grow at the pace of dawn, quiet, gentle, steady, knowing that God nurtures every small beginning. The traveler remains on the small rise within the lily field, soft wind moving gently around them, moonlight stretching thin paths of silver across the petals, and the horizon holding that faint shimmer of dawn-like promise, a glow not yet morning, but something stirring toward hope. Yet even here, even in this quiet place of beauty and gentleness, the traveler feels the subtle tug of something familiar, a shadow, a small one, soft around the edges, yet present enough to be felt. Future fears. Not loud ones. Not sharp ones. Just the faint silhouettes that linger at the edge of thought, those half-shaped anxieties that whisper, what if things change? What if tomorrow brings something difficult? What if this peace cannot last? The traveler lowers their gaze, watching the lilies sway with unbroken calm, none of them shrinking from shadows, none bracing for unseen storms, none leaning away from the direction the wind might blow next. They simply exist in the night they were given, unafraid, untroubled by what might come. The traveler exhales softly, feeling the weight of a truth they know well. Most fears of the future are shadows, shaped not by reality but by imagination, born not from events but from uncertainty, not grounded in truth but in what if. And what if is a place the heart drifts to when it has forgotten that God goes ahead long before worry ever arrives. The breeze brushes the traveler's face, cool, steady, cleansing, as though the night itself is sweeping away the residue of those imagined fears, the ones that rise uninvited, the ones that pretend to be warnings, the ones that grow larger when the heart grows tired. The traveler stands still, letting the next breath come slowly, letting the air fill the lungs, letting the warmth behind the ribs return, and in the stillness, something becomes clear. The shadows of imagined tomorrows hold no real weight. They cannot shape reality. They cannot steal the strength God will give when the future becomes today. The traveler lifts their eyes toward the horizon again. The glow there remains gentle, humble, barely touching the sky. Yet its presence is enough, because even the smallest light dissolves the largest shadow when the heart turns toward it. Fear grows in darkness, but trust grows in light, even the soft, quiet light of a night not yet finished. The traveler begins to walk again, slow steps through lilies brushing lightly against their legs, and with each step, one question rises softly. How many times has the heart feared what never came to pass? How many nights were lost to imagining storms that never formed? How many days were shadowed by outcomes that never arrived? The field remains peaceful. The night remains calm. And the presence of God remains near, steady, patient, unmoved by fears that rise from imagination alone. A small lily, bent slightly more than the rest, catches the traveler's eye, its stem curved, petals delicate, as though a recent wind had pressed hard against it. Yet it stands, still beautiful, still open, still alive under God's tender care. The traveler kneels beside it, seeing in this fragile bloom a quiet truth. Fear predicted the lily might break, but God held it. Fear imagined it might wither, but God sustained it. Fear assumed fragility meant danger, but God covered it with strength unseen. The traveler touches the soil around the stem, cool, firm, nourishing, a reminder that what supports life is often hidden, unseen beneath the surface, quietly working, quietly providing, quietly anchoring the heart when shadows feel large. God does this. In every tomorrow, in every uncertainty, in every shadowed place the mind imagines long before the feet ever arrive. The traveler rises, feeling the lilies sway in the breeze, feeling peace gather again in the chest, feeling the soft glow on the horizon slowly widen, and understanding, finally, that the future is not made of fears, it is made of the same grace that fills tonight. Tomorrow is not an empty space waiting for trouble. It is a place already inhabited by God, already shaped by His wisdom, already softened by His mercy, already secured by His presence. And as this truth settles, the shadows begin to fade, losing their shape, losing their grip, becoming nothing more than passing thoughts carried away on the valley wind. The traveler breathes deeply, and peace, true peace, rises like the early hint of dawn within the soul. The traveler walks slowly through the moonlit field, lilies brushing gently against their legs, the horizon glowing with that faint promise of light, and within the traveler, something begins to quiet, not fully, not all at once, but like a tide retreating softly along the shore. Yet even as peace rises, the mind, that faithful companion, that restless wanderer, still stirs with small tremors of thought, moments of racing questions, threads of wondering that pull toward the future even when the heart longs to remain present. The traveler feels it, a soft quickening, a subtle tightening beneath the ribs, the familiar pattern of the mind trying to outrun the moment, trying to gather answers, trying to anticipate needs, trying to secure outcomes God has already stepped into. It is not loud worry, not fear with sharp edges, but a gentle hum of unrest, like distant footsteps echoing in an empty hall, calling the traveler toward tomorrow before tonight's peace has fully settled. The traveler pauses, standing among the lilies as the wind moves gently through them, petals swaying as though in quiet rhythm with the traveler's own breath, and in the stillness, a new presence becomes noticeable, soft, near, familiar. A presence felt not in sound but in stillness, not in words but in warmth, not in visions but in the subtle shift of the heart, like a gentle hand placed upon the mind with tender assurance. The traveler breathes in, slow, deep, letting the air fill the lungs with cool night fragrance, and as they exhale, something stirs, a quiet whisper, a gentle echo rising not from the valley but from the very center of the soul. Your Father knows what you need. The traveler freezes, not in fear, but in reverence, in the sacred recognition of a truth that speaks softer than worry, but carries far more weight. Your Father knows what you need. Before you ask, before you plan, before you fear, before you imagine what tomorrow requires. The traveler closes their eyes, letting those words move through the mind like a slow, calming tide, washing over anxieties that had begun to gather, soothing the quiet tremors beneath the ribs, filling the spaces where restless thoughts once raced. Your Father knows the burdens you carry, knows the questions you hold, knows the provisions you hope for in silence, knows the uncertainties you cannot speak aloud, knows the paths you cannot yet see, knows the strength you will need when morning comes. A warmth spreads through the traveler's chest, gentle, steady, like a lantern being lit inside, glowing brighter with every breath. The voice of worry may race, quick, urgent, demanding attention, pulling the heart into tomorrow with imagined urgency. But God's voice, the voice of the one who knows, comes differently. Softer, lower, slower, like a hand smoothing over troubled water, bringing stillness with every wordless reassurance. The traveler opens their eyes, and the lilies seem to sway in agreement, as if creation itself is whispering God's truth. You do not need to race ahead. God is already there. You do not need to gather answers. God holds them gently. You do not need to plan for every outcome. God has prepared what you cannot yet see. You do not need to fear unknown needs. Your Father knows them already. The traveler feels the mind slow, the racing thoughts weakening, loosening their hold, like birds lifting quietly from branches at dawn, drifting into the sky and leaving the branches peaceful once more. Another breath, deep, steady, filling the lungs with cool air and quiet hope, and as the breath releases, the traveler feels it, the quiet miracle of a mind calmed by God's nearness. This is the kind of calm humans cannot create on their own. It is the calm that comes when the soul finally rests in the truth that God is involved, attentive, close, and deeply aware of every need, spoken and unspoken. The traveler places a hand over their heart, feeling the steady rhythm there, slower now, softer now, as though the heart itself is learning to relax into the presence of a Father who watches over their tomorrows so the mind can rest tonight. The valley grows quiet, the lilies sway with gentle gratitude, and the traveler stands in the stillness wrapped in a peace that begins not in the mind, but in the God who calms it. The traveler stands among the lilies, the night deep around them, the horizon holding its soft line of almost light, and the valley breathing with a rhythm that invites the soul to loosen, to soften, to let go. The peace from moments before still lingers, a warm settling inside the chest, a quiet easing of the thoughts that once tried to race ahead, a sense of God's nearness felt in the places words cannot reach. But now, in the hush of this moonlit field, another truth begins to rise, gentle, patient, like a hand extended toward a heart that still tries to hold too much. Release what lies ahead. The traveler feels it, a soft stirring behind the ribs, an invitation that does not rush or pressure, but waits, like open arms waiting for a weary child, like morning waiting on the other side of night. They inhale slowly, the air filled with the fragrance of lilies, the coolness brushing their skin in tender waves, and as they exhale, something inside quivers, a mixture of longing and reluctance, because letting go, even gently, asks the heart to surrender its illusion of control. The traveler lowers their gaze, hands resting loosely at their sides, and watches the petals move with effortless grace, each lily bending into the breeze without fear, without resistance, without asking where the wind will blow next. They release what they cannot control. They release what they cannot predict. They release what they cannot carry beyond this moment. And in their quiet surrender, they remain beautiful, rooted, held, safe. The traveler feels the invitation deepen, a soft question rising not in words but in the calm beating of their own heart. What if you gave tomorrow back to God, not just in idea, but in truth? What if you loosened your grip on what you cannot shape, what you cannot foresee, what you cannot fix before its time? What if you allowed yourself to rest without waiting for certainty first? The traveler steps deeper into the field, grass brushing against their feet, petals brushing lightly against their clothing, each touch a whisper of peace, each movement a reminder that they are not asked to hold everything, only to breathe in the grace God gives for this moment. A gentle breeze rises, lifting the lilies into a slow, synchronized dance, petals swaying like waves in a moonlit sea, and for a moment the traveler stands perfectly still, watching, listening, feeling the truth unfold. Creation does not cling to the future. Creation trusts the one who holds it. The traveler places a hand over their heart, fingers resting softly against the warm rhythm beneath, and feels how tightly the soul has tried to grip tomorrow's possibilities, hopes stretching too far, fears reaching too wide, questions growing roots in soil not meant for today. But tonight, God does not ask the traveler to understand tomorrow. He asks them to release it, to let it fall gently from their grasp like petals drifting onto still water, floating where the current carries them into the hands that shape the river itself. The traveler's breath shakes slightly, not from fear, but from recognition. The heart tires itself by holding the future too tightly. It strains under the weight of what was never meant to burden it. It forgets that surrender is not weakness, but rest. The traveler closes their eyes, letting the night wrap softly around them, letting God's nearness settle like a warm shawl over their shoulders, letting the lilies whisper their gentle wisdom. Release, because you are safe. Release, because you are seen. Release, because God stands in your tomorrow more firmly than you stand in your today. The future is not a field to be tilled tonight. It is a path God will open when the time arrives. A path illuminated step by step, moment by moment, grace by grace. The traveler exhales slowly, long, as though letting go of invisible threads stretched too far ahead, threads that held worry, expectation, prediction, fear, and as the breath fades into the night air, the threads fall away. Not lost, not ignored, simply placed gently into the hands of the Father who holds all things with perfect kindness. Peace moves through the traveler's chest, deeper than before, warmer than before, like the first true acceptance of rest settling into the soul. Tonight, the invitation is simple. Release what lies ahead. Because God already stands there, holding the dawn, holding the answers, holding every step the traveler has not yet taken. The traveler stands in the quiet center of the lily field, moonlight resting softly across every petal, the faint glow on the horizon stretching a little wider, the air cool and fragrant with the scent of night flowers, and within the traveler's chest, something begins to settle, something deep, something quiet, something holy. It is the stillness that comes only when a heart finally stops wrestling with tomorrow, when the grip loosens, when the breath softens, when the soul remembers that it is held by hands far steadier than its own. The traveler takes a slow inhale, letting the air glide through the lungs like a calm river through a gentle valley, letting it expand warm and steady beneath the ribs, letting it wash over the last traces of tension that lingered behind the heart. And as the breath releases, long, quiet, tender, the traveler feels the inward shift, the mind no longer tugging toward the future, the chest no longer bracing for imagined outcomes, the spirit no longer straining to understand what comes next. Only stillness remains. Not silence of emptiness, but silence of presence. Silence filled with God. Silence that listens. Silence that holds. Silence that heals. The lilies sway gently in the night breeze, a slow, peaceful dance that seems almost synchronized with the traveler's heartbeat, each petal moving in soft arcs, each stem bending with effortless grace, each flower living fully in the safety of the moment God has given it. And the traveler realizes, this stillness is not something they are creating. It is something God is offering, something God is pouring into the open spaces where worry once lived, something that settles naturally when tomorrow is released and today is embraced. The traveler walks a few steps forward, feet brushing lightly through the cool grass, hands relaxed, shoulders loose, breath steady, and with each step, the stillness grows thicker like a soft fog of peace wrapping the heart in a warm and reassuring embrace. The presence of God feels close, not loud, not forceful, not commanding, but gentle in the way a warm blanket drapes over tired shoulders, gentle in the way dawn touches the horizon without hurry, gentle in the way a parent places a quiet hand on a child's back to say, "I'm here, rest now." The traveler slows, closing their eyes as the breeze brushes softly against their face, carrying whispers of leaves and distant water, a night chorus of subtle sounds that weave together into a single, calming breath. Inside, deep in the space where fears once gathered, the traveler feels God's nearness not as a concept, not as a memory, but as a presence steady and warm like gentle hands cupping the heart, holding it with perfect tenderness. The heart that once raced now beats in soft, even rhythms. The thoughts that once scattered now settle like quiet dust after a passing breeze. The worry that once clenched now loosens like a knot undone by steady fingers. It is here, in this stillness, that the traveler begins to understand. Peace is not the absence of tomorrow's unknowns. Peace is the presence of God in this moment, this breath, this moonlit field where lilies sway and the night whispers of His care. The traveler opens their eyes, and the world appears gentler, shapes softer, colors calmer, the horizon glowing a touch brighter, as though the entire valley is reflecting the stillness forming inside the soul. A sense of being held rests like a warm weight in the traveler's chest, not heavy, not burdensome, but grounding, anchoring, a reminder that they do not stand alone in this valley, that every breath is witnessed, every step accompanied, every quiet ache understood by the God who holds all things, including the future, including the traveler, including this fragile, beautiful moment. The traveler places a hand gently over their heart, feels the steady rhythm beneath, and lets a single truth rise like a candle glowing in darkness. When God holds the heart, stillness becomes possible. And tonight, the traveler lets themselves rest in that stillness fully, completely, without hesitation. For the first time in a long while, the heart is not striving, not reaching, not fearing, not bracing, only resting, only trusting, only being held. The traveler remains in the center of the moonlit field, lilies swaying in slow, rhythmic patterns, the horizon carrying its faint, growing glow, and the night holding everything in a quiet, tender embrace, as though the whole valley is breathing with the traveler. Inhale, exhale, soft, steady, unhurried. Here, in this fragile space between darkness and dawn, another truth begins to rise gently within the traveler's spirit. Peace does not exist in yesterday. Peace does not exist in tomorrow. Peace lives only here, in this breath, in this present moment where God's hands cradle the heart with unwavering gentleness. The traveler takes a slow inhale, letting the air settle warm and deep behind the ribs, letting the chest rise in a soft, effortless arc, letting the body receive the calm that the valley is offering, and as the breath releases, the traveler feels a wave of quiet clarity sweep through the soul. This moment is the only place peace can be lived. Not the past, where old echoes linger like distant footsteps. Not the future, where imagined shadows stretch beyond sight. Only now, only here, under this moon, among these lilies, with God's presence wrapped softly around the weary places inside. The traveler begins to walk, small steps, unhurried, feeling each foot sink gently into the cool earth, feeling each movement draw them deeper into the stillness that has begun to settle like mist around their heart. Each lily that brushes against their legs becomes a quiet reminder. Creation is not holding yesterday. Creation is not reaching for tomorrow. Everything in this valley lives in the grace of this moment, breath by breath, wind by wind, light by light. The traveler stops near a cluster of lilies glowing brighter than the rest, petals open wide, fragrance drifting softly upward, as though offering themselves fully to the beauty of this night, not waiting for dawn to be meaningful, not longing for a different hour, simply shining where they stand, present and at peace. The traveler kneels beside them, fingers brushing lightly over a smooth petal, feeling how effortless beauty becomes when it isn't burdened by yesterday's weight or tomorrow's imagined demands. A warmth begins to rise inside the traveler, not sudden, not overwhelming, but slow and steady, like a candle being lit in the very center of the soul, its glow pushing gently outward into every corner where worry once lived. Peace lives here, not in what the heart remembers, not in what the heart fears, but in what the heart is experiencing in God's presence at this exact breath. The traveler closes their eyes, letting the breeze move softly across their face, carrying the scent of lilies and cool night air, carrying the quiet whisper of God's nearness, carrying the truth that peace is found only when the soul rests where God is, and God is always here, in the present. Thoughts about tomorrow soften, falling away like leaves drifting from a branch. Thoughts about the past loosen, unwinding like threads released from gentle fingers, and in the empty space they leave behind, peace settles, warm, deep, full. The traveler breathes again, a breath that feels lighter than any before, a breath that feels anchored in a moment untouched by anything outside of God's care. A breath that feels like the soul finally coming home to the place it was always meant to rest. The horizon brightens softly, stretching a warm line of early light across the sleeping valley, and the traveler feels the presence of God not moving ahead of them, not pulling them backward, but surrounding them here, holding them in the space where peace is possible, where rest is natural, where trust can finally take root. Tonight, this moment, this breath, is where God meets them. This is where their peace lives. This is where their soul can finally be still. The traveler opens their eyes slowly, and the lilies glow brighter under the widening light, as if reflecting the peace that now fills the traveler's chest, a peace no longer borrowed from imagined futures but received fully in the presence of God here and now. Peace is not something the traveler must chase. It is something they find when they stop running into tomorrow and step gently into the love God offers in the quiet of this very moment. The traveler remains in the quiet field as the horizon slowly brightens, not yet dawn, but the tender beginning of morning's promise, a soft glow that rests along the edge of the sky like a blessing waiting to unfold. The lilies sway in gentle waves around them, the night breeze still cool, still slow, still carrying the scent of earth and flowers, and within the traveler's chest, peace continues to settle, deep, warm, steady, a peace rooted not in certainty but in presence. For a long moment, the traveler stands perfectly still, breathing with the valley, resting in the calm God has placed within this night, and then, from somewhere quiet inside, another truth begins to rise, gentle as the first breath of dawn, steady as a hand resting between the shoulder blades. You do not walk into tomorrow alone. The traveler feels the words not as a sound but as a warm unfolding in the heart, a reminder that tomorrow, with all its unknowns, its questions, its unseen paths, is not an empty landscape awaiting their arrival. It is already inhabited by God. The traveler takes a slow inhale, letting the lungs fill with air touched by new light, and as they exhale, something deep inside softens further, the idea that tomorrow is something to face, to manage, to prepare for alone, begins to dissolve like mist under rising warmth. Tomorrow is not a place where God meets the traveler later. It is a place where he already waits, already works, already holds every moment that has yet to unfold. The field shimmers as the sky grows a shade lighter, petals catching the faint gold that edges the horizon, and the traveler begins to walk slowly through the lilies toward the direction of the coming day. Not out of urgency, not out of fear, but out of a growing understanding that tomorrow is not something to brace for, it is something God has already gone ahead to prepare. The traveler's steps become quieter, softer, as the ground shifts beneath their feet, and with each step, another truth settles deeper. Trust does not mean knowing what will happen. Trust means knowing who will be there when it happens. A warm breath of wind brushes across the traveler's cheek, carrying a gentle reassurance that tomorrow's strength will not be drawn from tonight's reserves, that each new day comes with fresh provision, new mercies, unseen help, the exact grace needed for that day alone. The traveler reaches the edge of the field, looking out across a gently rolling slope where morning light will soon stretch, and in the hush of this pre-dawn moment, the presence of God feels closer than breath, steady, faithful, unchanging. The traveler realizes they do not need to rehearse tomorrow. They do not need to imagine every possibility. They do not need to gather strength for a day that has not yet been placed in their hands. For tomorrow's grace is already waiting in tomorrow. And the God who held them through this night will walk beside them through every step of the day to come. The traveler presses a hand gently to their heart, feeling the rhythm there, calm, sure, anchored, and the warmth that fills their chest is no longer tentative. It is trust taking form, trust becoming breath, trust becoming presence, trust becoming companionship with God that does not end when dawn arrives. The horizon brightens a little more, soft gold mixing with the pale blue of early light, and the traveler feels a tender shift, a readiness not to face tomorrow but to walk into it with God already at their side. No step will be taken alone. No burden carried in isolation. No fear shouldered without help. No question faced without wisdom near. God is there, in all of it, waiting not at the end but at the beginning. The traveler breathes deeply, a breath that feels filled with promise, with quiet courage, with companionship, and the peace that comes from knowing that the one who holds the stars also holds their tomorrow with the same gentle care as the lilies he clothes without effort. The valley settles into profound quiet, as if creation itself acknowledges the truth. Tomorrow is safe because God walks into it first. The traveler stands at the edge of the lily field, morning's first faint colors slowly gathering along the horizon, night still lingering in soft shadows, and the world holding its breath in that quiet space between darkness and dawn, a space where surrender becomes possible in ways the heart could not imagine before. The lilies continue swaying behind the traveler, petals brushing softly against one another, their quiet dance shaped entirely by the breeze and not by effort, not by strain, not by fear. The traveler watches them, eyes soft, breath steady, and feels a truth rising gently inside. There is a strength found only in letting go. A strength so gentle it feels like rest. A strength so sacred it feels like trust. A strength so deep it can carry a weary heart without asking anything in return. The traveler takes a slow step forward, feet sinking gently into the cool earth, and with that step a small release happens inside, a loosening of invisible threads that once pulled the mind toward tomorrow, threads woven from fear, from control, from the instinct to hold tightly to what was never designed to be held. The traveler inhales, the scent of lilies rising with the wind, and as the breath settles inside the chest, another thread falls loose, another weight lifts, another small corner of the heart unclenches. This is what letting go feels like, not abandonment, not giving up, not carelessness, but a gentle surrender of what the heart was never meant to carry alone. The lily field glows softly behind the traveler, and ahead, the horizon brightens in warm, patient shades, light stretching slowly across the valley like a hand reaching forward toward the traveler's path, offering guidance, offering warmth, offering presence. The traveler breathes again, longer this time, deeper, letting the breath flow in like light entering a quiet room, and flow out like the soft release of something finally set free. They think of all the places in the heart where fear once rooted itself, places where worry built fragile structures meant to protect, places where imagined futures cast long shadows over moments meant for peace. But now, under this growing light, those structures dissolve, those shadows shrink, those roots loosen, and the traveler realizes, fear never protected them. Worry never prepared them. Clinging never strengthened them. Only God did. Quietly, consistently, faithfully, with a gentleness that held every trembling moment with unwavering care. The traveler walks a little farther, the lilies rustling softly behind, each step lighter than the one before, because letting go does not weaken the spirit, it frees it. It frees the heart from the weight of imagined burdens. It frees the mind from rehearsing the future. It frees the body from bracing against unknowns. It frees the soul to experience peace that only exists when tomorrow is released into God's capable hands. A breeze rises, warmer now, carrying hints of the coming dawn, and it moves across the traveler with a tenderness that feels almost like blessing, as if God is breathing reassurance into the spaces where fear once lived. You do not need to hold what I am holding. You do not need to carry what I have already lifted. You do not need to fear what I have gone ahead to meet. The traveler's heart softens, shoulders lowering, breath deepening, as peace rises again, not as a brief feeling but as a steady presence rooted in something far deeper than emotion, rooted in trust that God's hands are stronger, gentler, and far more capable than their own. The traveler pauses as another truth settles. Letting go is not a loss of strength. It is the discovery of where true strength comes from. Strength that bends without breaking. Strength that rests without fear. Strength that trusts without needing control. Strength that allows God to be God while the heart simply breathes. The sky brightens a touch more, subtle light stretching like a quiet promise, and the traveler whispers inside a small, silent yes, a yes to release, a yes to trust, a yes to the gentle strength that comes from letting go and letting God carry what lies ahead. And in this rising peace, the traveler takes another step into the morning that is slowly unfolding, not holding tomorrow but held by the one who walks into it with them. The traveler stands at the threshold between night and dawn, the lilies behind them swaying in gentle waves, the horizon before them brightening with soft threads of early light, and the valley holding its breath in a stillness so deep, so quiet, so tender that it feels like the whole world is waiting for something holy to unfold. Yet even as morning nears, the night remains kind, wrapping the traveler in its final moments of calm, offering one more lesson before the day begins to stir. A lesson whispered through the breeze, through the lilies, through the quiet rhythm of the earth. Tomorrow is already resting in God's hands. The traveler breathes this in, A slow inhale that fills the lungs with cool air still touched by night, and with the exhale, something inside loosens even more, a deeper release, a softer surrender, a quiet admission that they no longer need to reach into the future to feel safe. The world around them hums with unity, grass bending to the wind, petals shaking loose dew in soft glimmers, shadows retreating gently as dawn gathers strength, all of creation moving without anxiety, without urgency, without the need to peek into tomorrow's pages. The traveler watches the field, the gentle movement of lilies as they sway to rhythms written long before this night, unburdened, unworried, unshaken by the unknown, because everything they need is given in each moment with perfect timing. The traveler lowers themselves to the ground, kneeling in the cool grass, letting their palms rest lightly upon the earth, feeling its steadiness, its grounding presence, its quiet assurance that God holds the world with the same care He holds the smallest heart. The lilies rustle softly behind them, and the traveler senses it once more, that God is already in their tomorrow, already preparing the grace for that day, already shaping the path with tenderness deeper than the valley floor and higher than the horizon's light. None of tomorrow's burdens belong to this night. None of tomorrow's decisions belong to this breath. None of tomorrow's strength is expected of the traveler now. Tonight, and this early edge of dawn, belong wholly to rest. The traveler closes their eyes, letting the sounds of the valley embrace them, the gentle hum of wind, the soft whisper of petals brushing, the distant trickle of a hidden stream, each sound carrying the same quiet message: let your soul lay its burdens down. Tomorrow is mine to hold. The traveler's heart softens even further, thoughts drifting like feathers settling slowly upon still water, no longer racing, no longer reaching, simply resting beneath the gentle shadow of God's unfailing care. A warmth spreads through the traveler's chest, not bright or forceful, but deep, steady, subtle as the first ray of light lifting itself over the edge of the world. In this warmth, the traveler senses something sacred, a quiet covenant written not in words but in presence. God will not meet them in tomorrow as a stranger. He will meet them as the one who walked beside them in this night, the one who watched over their rest, the one who held their fears in gentle hands while they breathed in peace, the one who carried what they silently surrendered. Slowly, the traveler opens their eyes, and the sky has brightened again, a thin ribbon of color stretching toward morning, soft gold melting into pale blue, the kind of light that does not hurry but unfolds delicately like a slow-opening flower. This light is not calling the traveler into worry. It is calling them into trust, into rest, into the quiet knowing that whatever tomorrow holds has already been touched by the kindness of God. The traveler inhales deeply, and the breath fills them with the peace of one who knows they do not walk into anything alone. Tonight is ending. Dawn is approaching. But the stillness remains, settled under the skin, woven into the breath, held in the heart like a quiet song that will rise again whenever tomorrow feels heavy. For now, the traveler simply rests in this truth: tomorrow belongs to God. Tonight belongs to peace. And the soul belongs to the one who holds both with unshakable love. The traveler remains kneeling in the cool grass, the lilies behind them swaying in slow, moon-kissed rhythms, the horizon before them glowing with the first warm hints of dawn. But for a few more sacred moments, night remains, holding everything in a tender stillness that feels like a lullaby sung over the whole valley. Here, wrapped in this gentle threshold between darkness and light, the traveler begins to feel a truth settling deeper than all the lessons before, a truth not learned by thought but by being held. They have been kept. Kept through the long hours, kept through the quiet aches, kept through the tug of tomorrow, kept through the lingering shadows of imagined fears, kept through the slow unfolding of trust, kept through each breath, each pause, each surrender. The traveler inhales softly, a breath that enters the lungs warm, slow, steady, as though the air itself has been shaped by the presence that guarded this night, and with the exhale, the traveler feels their body grow heavier in the sweetest way, a weight of rest, of release, of safety, settling gently over the shoulders like a soft blanket laid with loving hands. Birds rustle faintly above in the branches, not yet singing, but stirring in the early edge of waking, their tiny breaths rhythmic, peaceful, trusting. Reminders that even in the smallest creatures, God keeps watch through every night and brings them gently into every morning. The lilies remain still, their petals closed in delicate folds, resting without fear, waiting without worry, breathing without anticipation of anything other than the care they already know will meet them with the light. And in that quiet scene, the traveler realizes, they too have been carried in the soft, unseen hands of God, not only in grand ways but in the small, tender ways that the soul often overlooks. In the moments when the mind wandered into tomorrow's shadows, He held them. In the moments when fear whispered beneath the ribs, He calmed them. In the moments when the heart clenched from ancient habits, He stood close enough for stillness to form again. The traveler presses a hand gently to their chest, feeling the slow, peaceful rhythm there, a heartbeat no longer racing, no longer bracing, no longer pushing ahead, but resting, truly resting in a night shaped entirely by God's gentle keeping. The breeze moves softly across the valley, warmer now, carrying faint sense of morning's approach, and with it comes a tender awareness that being kept is not something the traveler earned or fought for or maintained through effort. Being kept is a gift. A gift offered freely. A gift given lovingly. A gift woven into every moment of this quiet night. The traveler rises slowly from the ground, legs steady, body calm, heart wrapped in a peace that feels almost luminous, as though something within is glowing softly with the memory of being held. They face the horizon, the edge of light growing warmer with each passing breath, and feel the truth expand gently inside. If God has kept them through this night, He will keep them through every night. And if He keeps them through the night, He will surely keep them through the day to come. The valley remains quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like reverence, like gratitude rising from the earth itself, like creation recognizing the sacredness of being held by the one who neither slumbers nor sleeps. The traveler exhales slowly, a breath that carries thanks into the cool morning air. Thanks for peace, for rest, for the presence that surrounded them like soft wings through the night. They do not need to fear the hours ahead. They do not need to cling to the dawn as though it will demand more strength than they possess. The God who kept them in the dark will keep them in the light. And this knowledge, quiet, steady, warm, settles into the traveler's spirit like a final, gentle blessing of the night. The heart that began this journey weighed by tomorrow now stands lighter, warmer, stronger in trust. Not because the future has been revealed, but because the one who holds it has shown His nearness again and again through the soft keeping of this night. The traveler closes their eyes for one final moment, letting the peace rest deep in every corner of the soul, and when they open them again, the horizon glows a little brighter, as if dawn itself is honoring the quiet miracle of being kept by God. The traveler stands in the gentle hush of dawn's first breath, the lilies behind them resting in perfect stillness, the birds above beginning to stir with soft, sleepy rustles, and the valley, touched by the warm edge of morning light, feels like a sanctuary, a place where everything whispers of peace, of presence, of God's faithful nearness. The horizon slowly unfolds in soft bands of gold and pale rose, light stretching toward the traveler as though reaching out with quiet hands, inviting them into a new day not with urgency but with tenderness, with warmth, with the promise that God goes before them in every step that waits ahead. But for now, before the day unfolds fully, before responsibilities awaken, before thoughts turn toward whatever sunrise may bring, the traveler rests in a final truth. Tonight, they may sleep without worry. Not because tomorrow is simple, not because the future is predictable, not because every question has been answered, but because the heart has learned something deeper, something truer than fear, something more steadfast than uncertainty. God holds tomorrow. And He has held this night. The traveler breathes slowly, a long inhale drawn from cool morning air, a long exhale that releases anything still lingering in the corners of the mind, letting the breath carry away the remnants of the day's concerns, letting the shoulders fall into softness, letting the chest open gently, letting rest take its rightful place within the soul. They stand quietly as dawn brightens, and every piece of the valley seems to speak in the language of peace. The lilies, still clothed in beauty they did not create. The birds, fed without storing or striving. The trees, stretching their branches toward the light without fear. The earth itself, holding steady beneath every step, patient and grounded in rhythms set by the hand of God. All of creation has lived this night in peace. All of creation waits for dawn in trust. And the traveler, a beloved child of the one who shaped the stars, is invited to rest in that same sacred ease. They turn slowly back toward the field, looking once more at the lilies bathed in early light, and the sight fills the traveler's chest with a warm stillness, a reminder that beauty grows not from striving but from being held. Sleep can be trusted when God is the one who keeps watch. Rest can be deep when God is the one who carries tomorrow. Peace can stretch into the night when the soul knows it is never alone in any darkness. The traveler closes their eyes, letting the warmth of dawn settle across their face, letting the breath deepen, letting the heart rest in the truth that the God who tended the lilies and fed the birds and calmed their racing thoughts will also keep them in every moment of sleep and in every hour of the coming day. No worry needs to enter the mind tonight. No burden needs to be carried into dreams. No fear needs to linger beneath the ribs. For the one who holds the future holds the traveler with the same tender hands. Hands steady, hands gentle, hands strong enough to carry every tomorrow yet soft enough to cradle the heart into peaceful rest. The valley grows brighter, but the spirit of the traveler grows calmer, settling into a peace so deep, so warm, so steady, that it begins to feel like the first true invitation to rest fully, to sleep wholly, to trust completely. They breathe again, a slow, final exhale that releases all remaining strain, all remaining worry, all remaining effort, leaving only the softness of surrender and the warmth of being held. And in that breath, the blessing settles. You may sleep without worry, because God is awake. You may rest without fear, because God is watching. You may close your eyes in peace, because God holds both the night and the dawn that follows. The traveler turns gently toward the path leading home, each step tender, quiet, light, and as the valley glows with new light, the story closes with one truth written softly across the heart. The God who kept you through this night will keep you through every tomorrow. So rest now, deeply, fully, in His perfect peace. Thank you for resting in this story tonight.